This is Dolynny TV, ladies and gentlemen. Happy New Year. I think I forgot to say that last video, starting off 2021 with the 10 bold predictions for the Oilers 2021 NHL season. But now, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to hear this. We want to get going with 5 keys to the Edmonton Oilers play if they are to win a Stanley Cup. And we'll start with some very basic situations, and we'll get more advanced once we know what this team actually looks like, because right now there's some big concepts that really could go a long way to make the Oilers a Stanley Cup team. Whether you've heard it out of the guys in Sportsnet's Toronto studios, whether you've heard it from Mark Spector, Bob Stauffer, any of the talking heads that go out there and talk Oilers every day, well, my friends, you know what? We've heard enough talk. It's time to get down to the nitty-gritty and get the job done. And that's exactly what I'm hoping to boil down. 5 key things the Oilers can do that will lead to a Stanley Cup if they do them right. That's the kind of thing, right? This Oilers team, disregard whatever else on the roster, goaltending, defense. With Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, this team should be a threat for the Stanley Cup every year. However, you can't just go out there and light up the league between 2 players and win a Stanley Cup. We know that. We haven't been able to do that for the past 4 years. So now the question becomes, how do we do it? Here are 5 key points, I think, that we've heard enough times. But you know what? I've collected them into one spot, and it all comes down to these 5 points, at least right now, right? In training camp, things are going to change. As of Sunday, these 5 key points could very well change. And that's the key thing. That's why it's coming out just January 1st. Start of 2021 this is just how it looks entering the year to me. So ladies and gentlemen, for the Edmonton Oilers, I present the Oilers' 5 keys to winning the Stanley Cup in 2021. Now this is not necessarily all about playoffs. This is more the overarching themes, as I have said. Number 1 is reduce goals against per game below 2.9 via 5-on-5 play. Last year, the Oilers, they scored pretty well 5-on-5, but they were also a team that unfortunately, not 5-on-5, I'm talking overall goals against or goals for per game. Pardon me. See, I had this all figured out and then I botched it. But what I'm meaning is goals for per game was just slightly above goals against per game for the Oilers in 2019-2020, sitting there at a 3.14 goals against or goals for per game and a 3.03 goals against per game. So a difference of 0.13 goals for per game. Now obviously that's not big enough. The Boston Bruins, goals for per game 3.2, goals against per game 2.39. There were some absolute monster leaders in that category. And I mean, the Oilers by no means were the worst team. They're sitting in their 17th middle of the pack in goals against. So it's not like we're talking drastic improvements here. But if you get into that 2.9 range, suddenly you are within the top 15 of best teams in goals against per game. In fact, you would be in last year's NHL within the top 13. And as we know, the Oilers, if they can improve 5-on-5 scoring offensively while reducing below 2.9, right, even if you get up to that 3.2, you're talking almost a third of a goal per game more. Well, suddenly that results in a lot more wins, right? Every third game, you're getting an extra goal essentially. And if you're winning a 1-goal game every third game, there you go. That's how it's working out for you on the math. And that could be the difference, especially in the playoffs, of winning a series, right? Chicago, we don't need to really break that one down, but think what reducing even a half a goal per game in that 4-game series, so 2 goals out of that series, take 2 goals away in that series, and seriously, that team goes out there and wins that series, does the Oilers, right? Bang. So you can see how over the course of a 56-game season, going into a standard playoffs, going into a cup run, then reducing by, you know what, somewhere below 2.9 really gets the job done. And I'm not asking significantly more than 2.9. 2.9 would very well be good enough for this Oilers team. And the reason why, as we get into point number 3, it should have been point number 2, but these first 3 points, all very closely intertwined, is a big reason of that for the next 2 points is goaltending and special teams, right? Is number one relies on 5-on-5 play. We have great power play, right? Goals for, goes ahead, perfect, no problem. Goals against, the penalty kill was second best in the NHL last year and was not costing us as in year prior. So now it's about that 5-on-5 play, and that part of that 5-on-5 play is the combined goalie save percentage that I'm talking about in point number 2. Point number 2 saying combined save percentage from all goalies at 0.909, so a 90.9 save percentage or better of all the goalies, right? Koskinen had 917 last year, and of course you had Mike Smith, I think, at 902. But the problem is simply the Oilers goalies just need to have that 909 save percentage, and if you settle in there combined, right, if Mikko Koskinen's up higher at like 921 and it all works out, and you're somewhere above 909, you are good to go, especially if you get point number 3, continue the special teams play from last season while allowing for more players to be involved. This both goes for the power play and the penalty kill. You increase the scoring by allowing more guys time on the power play, right? Don't burn out Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl because you've got the 5-on-5 depth now as well, with a tourist line in the third line with Ennis and Puljujarvi more than likely. A fourth line that should be capable of producing offense. And of course, that allows you to build a secondary power play unit, so you only have to run McDavid for, say, a minute 10 and allow the second unit 50 seconds, because you also have 2 power play defenders now in Darnell Nurse and Tyson Barrie, or Caleb Jones and Tyson Barrie. Some options. Anyway, right? So that's where you kind of get the power play more involved, but you look at it from the penalty kill point of view as well, of getting players more involved there. We've heard now rumblings of Kyle Turris getting involved on the penalty kill. That's natural that we want a right-hand shot centerman on the penalty kill, but somebody that we've seen tested on the PK being a guy like Gaetan Oss. Well, you'd expect him to be more involved in the penalty kill this season, and that's where we want the Oilers, instead of having those 2 set lines, you want to have probably 3 set lines on the penalty kill, because then you allow that ice time distribution to be more effective, and depending on the situation, who's having a good night, bad night, you have a third line on the PK able to go in there, step in, give you a replacement level hockey, and of course then you get that continued special teams play from last year. You see how that works? Yes. You get more people involved because we specifically have more people capable of being involved, but at the same rate you are able to go out there and dominate more on 5-on-5, because therefore you have more people involved on PK and PP, so the ice time distribution isn't as drastic as it was last year. If Darnell Nurse is playing 25 minutes a night like Clefbaum was last year, we got problems, and that's where the PP and the penalty kill really come into play. So that's where it all gets going. Point 1 through 3 very much intertwined, whether it be reducing goals against per game below 2.9 via 5-on-5 play, right? But that comes at the added knowledge that you have to get continued special teams play from last season, right? You have to take that as we move forward. That is now the expectation, not the dream. That's right. Last year we dreamed of being a good special teams team. We achieved that dream. Now it's the expectation. You have to maintain that level of performance. The goaltending, 909 save percentage from all goalies involved. That's not Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen. That's Stuart Skinner. That's Anton Forsberg. Heaven forbid Dylan Wells. Right? There's a couple of situations where you have to use multiple goalies this year outside of your top 2, and that's where, you know what, even if those goalies have to fill in, they have to do enough of a job to keep you afloat when they're in there. And that's where, yeah, the 909, that seems maybe a little bit low of a target. 910, 912 should be more of the target. But realistically, right, if you can go out there, reduce 5-on-5 goals against, and find your goals against total at about 2.9, and you can get that special teams play combined going to do what they did last year, okay, suddenly you know what, the goaltending not as much of a factor. Not saying it's a non-factor, but it is still an important factor, and that's where that 909 threshold really comes into play. Now, I'm already through 10 minutes of this video, and I mean, look at this. I'm getting excited. I'm getting worked up. This is excellent. I cannot wait to see the training camp roster hopefully released today. Now, number 4 on this list is defensive scoring totaling at least 60 plus goals. Here's the thing, that's a large ask. Problem is, we've got 8-9 defensemen potentially getting in the lineup in 56 games. That's asking more than a goal per game out of the defense. But here's the thing, keys to winning the Stanley Cup in 2021. You want to talk about something that maybe potentially factors into the playoffs? Sure, add this 60, whether it be regular season and playoffs, probably more realistic. But the problem is, for the Oilers to actually break through and have an impactful season this year, you have to at some point have the defense finally scoring some large numbers of goals, right? How long has it been since the Oilers last had a defenseman score 16 plus goals? Long time. Tyson Barrie steps in, should be capable of that if all goes well, if you get that continued special teams play from last season, right? Bang. Top power play unit, Tyson Barrie's out there. That factors in. He should be scoring some goals. And even in a shortened season, okay, realistically, 60 is a hard ask. I didn't factor that fully in when I was doing my math. 60 is a big ask. But if you can go out there, get 12, 15 goals out of Tyson Barrie, if you can get 8 or 9 out of Darnell Nurse, if you can get 6 out of Ethan Bear, if you can get 5 out of Caleb Jones, you know what, 3 or 4 out of Adam Larson, like, you know what, a guy we traded Taylor Hall for should be capable of producing just one out of Chris Russell. And then on the right hand side on the third pair, right, we have Evan Bouchard, who if he steps into the lineup, he's got that heck of a wrist shot, heck of a slap shot. Yeah, ask for 4 or 5 goals if he plays, I don't know, 25 plus games. And Slater Cuckoo, totally unknown, but he's a guy that his offense looks like it is capable of producing if he gets the right minutes. And if he has to, well, guess what? You do have to expect some offense out of him as well. They even say 2 or 3 goals. But you look at that, right? Suddenly there's somewhere combination. You're already looking north of 50 in that math number if somebody wants to run that for me. So yes, defensive scoring, it's something I talk about every year that frustrates me, is how the Oilers just accept lackluster effort from their defensemen in the goal department. The defense cannot be, in the modern NHL, a blank space for goal scoring. It can't be. And that's where we need to have it. Maybe for those of us that have not watched the Oilers in the 80s, maybe it's something we really are lacking, realizing how bad it's needed when you had a guy named Paul Coffey running back there scoring just incredible amounts of goals per game, right? Is it something that the Oilers, when they were successful, they had that? So is maybe me asking this not too far of an ask realistically, right? But here's the hardest ask of all of them. The 5 keys to the Oilers winning the Stanley Cup, and it all comes down to this. Number 5, the final point on the list, and let me tell you, it's the hardest ask and the one that's going to be the make it or break it. I don't care about the goals against down to 2.9. I don't care about the save percentage. I don't care about the special teams play. I don't care about defense scoring goals. Realistically, number 5 is the end-all be-all of the Oilers' success here. And whether it be a Kyle Turris, a Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, a Kyler Yamamoto, Leon Draisaitl, heaven forbid Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl, in fact, right? Any of those guys, Darnell Nurse going down, you have potentially, say, Tyson Barrie going down, a goalie going down. This is where it really comes to fruition. Make or break is health. If the Oilers are healthy, and I mean the Oilers famously struggle with being healthy, and it exposes the depth of the roster quickly when they get banged up in multiple numbers. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if the Oilers get exposed due to injuries, that's where we're going to have a problem. Make or break a Stanley Cup bid, or even finishing top 4 in the North Division. So ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to it, 1 through 5, all important points to winning and keys to winning a Stanley Cup this season. Problem is, number 5 is the number 1 make it or break it. If the Oilers are injured, they can't do it. That's straight up. We know that. It's not saying that, oh, well, we should have faith in other... No, the Oilers cannot win if not fully healthy. That's all it comes down to. We've seen that story, same old, so since 06, 07. Key injuries at weird times of the season, costing us any momentum we had at that time and wrecking what could be an important part to the season, right? You think about Oscar Klefbom's injuries over the past 5, 6 years, whatever it's been. Every time he goes down, the team tanks for a little bit, and that seems to be a key problem in the past few years. So that's where we need to eliminate that by just staying healthy. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in this afternoon. I will catch you hopefully a little bit later on today. Still waiting for that training camp roster. And let me tell you, that will be the priority as soon as I see it, to get a video up to you and break it all down. I'm Tyson. This is Dolynny TV. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening, afternoon, whenever you're tuning in. I am up on out of here.